everybody, Captain Ian here with another episode of Outdoor Insiders. Today we're going to be talking about how to build a fire by friction using a bow drill. The two things you really need to use in order to create fire are pressure and friction, and you can demonstrate this at home. Put your hands together, press really hard, and then start to rub, and you'll notice it gets warm and then hotter, and if you did that with sticks, you'd be able to create enough heat to actually create an ember and then fire. And you hear people talking about rubbing two sticks together, and that does generate enough heat to create fire. But this bow drill has been used for thousands of years by people all over the world, and it's a great way to speed up that process of just rubbing two sticks together, even though it's a pretty rudimentary technique. Now, it's called a bow drill because it has a component called the bow. It looks like it would be for a bow and arrow, but it's actually for wrapping around the piece of wood called a spindle, and that's what's going to spin in place, creating the friction to make enough heat. The top part here actually fits right on top of the spindle and applies pressure as you push down on it to generate that heat as well. And the bottom is a baseboard. You'll notice there's some holes in the baseboard where the wood actually gets burned away, and there's some notches on the top allowing oxygen to get into the fire and build and grow and breathe that way. Now, when you're actually using the bow drill, you'll put the spindle wrapped into the bow, just like so. This thunderhead will go right on top, but there's a good technique, a good stance to use when you're doing this, so that way it's a little bit more comfortable and you can apply more pressure. So you actually stabilize the baseboard by putting your foot right on top of it. Then the hand that holds the thunderhead will go underneath your leg, so that way you can sit down on it, put a lot of pressure, and it just stabilizes it a little bit more so it's easier to use. Then, as you start to move the bow back and forth, it spins in place, and as you go more and more, you'll get a lot of smoke. Just like that. So once you've been doing the bow drill technique, sometimes it takes up to a couple minutes to actually get an ember. You're going to be putting it into something called a bird's nest. Now, I've made this out of a manila rope, natural fiber rope that I've just broken apart and made into a bundle resembling a bird's nest, but this is going to act as my tinder once I actually put that ember inside here and use another technique to get enough oxygen flow to ignite this bundle. Now, I want to point out that whenever you're creating fire, you want to make sure that you're being safe and that you have an actual safe place to be able to build your fire. And you're going to always want to have water on hand, which I have this bucket of water in order to put out any fires that I build. So after a few minutes of using the bow drill, I've created an actual ember that I've placed inside the bird's nest here. You're going to be blowing on this just really gently in order to create some oxygen flow. And then once it gets to a certain point, you're going to start using a figure 8 method, just like this. Now, you have to be really careful so you don't have your hands on the very back of this, because as you're doing the figure 8, there's hot air and smoke coming out the back. But the more you do this, the more heat you get. And eventually, you'll have some flame from this bundle. Well, I hope you learned something today during our fire by friction bow drill demonstration. Whenever you're handling or building fire, please remember to do so responsibly and safely. Always have water access and parental supervision, as well as a safe place to actually build your fire. Now, something that you can do at home, that activity where you put your hands together, rub really hard and get that heat, that is the way that you actually create fire by friction. But also, you can do some research online, looking at ways that humans have used fire as tools all throughout our history. Tune in next time to another episode of Outdoor Insiders.